This morning I am at the University of Houston, speaking with Mon Yin Lung, who is the Associate Director of the university's O'Quinn Law Library. Mon Ling, I want to sort of ask you some of the things that I like to ask of anybody with whom I'm speaking on camera. And that is, tell us a little bit about yourself as a human being, an individual. Can you tell us a little bit about your life, perhaps not only now, but even when you were young?
Okay, I was born in mainland China, but raised up in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. My parents, according to today's standard, were very strict, and that instilled a very strong sense of work ethic in me, and also the old set of, shall I say, practice. That means if you pick up a job, you better get it done well. I have to admit that really carried me very far, because through my life there are some difficulties, of course, mm-hmm. and then that got me through a lot of things. And I came to this country in 1969 for graduate study. Started out in University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, and where I received a master in social science, major in history. Uh-huh. And I really am grateful to the training I received, because that's where I learned how to trace a bill and how to use congressional records and all the government documents. It's very fascinating. And after that, went to Louisiana State University, LSU, to have my library degree. The major reason why I chose LSU is because my best friend, childhood friend since we were 13, were there. She wanted me to go down there so we can room together and save money on food.
Well, that's great. It happens to be a pretty good university too.
Yes, and for all the teachers down there, I have two professors standing out. One is Professor Helen Miller. She was a really good librarian and gave me a very strong sense of the value of a library. Mm-hmm. The other, I'm sorry to say, I forgot her name, but she was an adjunct professor, mm-hmm. double as the university cataloger. She taught me cataloging. And that's how I landed my first job.
So you were started off as a catalog librarian then?
Yes, I was the monograph cataloger. That's my first professional job, mm-hmm. at Troy State University Library, Troy, Alabama.
In Alabama?
Yes.
So you sort of stuck to the, what we call the southern part of the United States, at least certainly at that point. And here you are in Houston, which is, last I checked, at least a ways south of, say, Chicago.
Well, actually, it was very interesting. Yes, the first 6 years of my life in the United States, I live in the Deep South. Mm-hmm. Okay, to the point that one time I went to Canada to visit my parents. Somebody told me that I speak English with an accent. I said, yes, I speak English with a Cantonese accent. The woman said, no, it's not like that. She said, you say something like now. I said, oh, that is the Southern accent.
I had the same criticism. When I left Houston, after only 3 years here, I moved to, well, I think the Houston folks, or a lot of the Texans would call it Yankee country. It was Connecticut. And people picked me out even then as having a slight Texas twang to my, I had acquired just in the 3 years. And it took a while
to get rid of it?
Yeah, well, I didn't try to get rid of it, but you listen to the people around you and you mimic what you hear. So eventually I think it sort of extinguished itself. But yes, you do pick up, and then the phrasing, the terminology sometimes is a little different in different regions, and you acquire that too. And so,
well, I try to learn English. I mean, I'm not a native speaker, But the best way to learn a language is listen to what the natives do.
Yes.
Okay?
Mhm.
So naturally, I pick up some Southern accent and some Southern terminology, like y'all.
Exactly. I
It's very
occasionally even
natural.
still use that word,
Uh-huh.
and I don't even live in the South anymore. But it works.
Yeah, it was. So, I mean, especially for me, I learn what people say,
Mhm.
and I pick up the slang, everything,
Yeah.
and
Well,
that has a
it's
lot of
how
impact on me.
It's how we communicate, and it's effective. It works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So you started off in Louisiana as a library student, and you had a couple of, could I describe them as mentors in your faculty,
well,
faculty members?
I would not call them strictly mentor, but
Mhm.
Dr. Miller was a very strong-willed, have very strong sense of principle of library,
Mhm.
and she really valued library service a whole lot, have a lot of confidence
Yeah.
in it. Okay.
Well, that sounds very mentorish to me.
Well, I guess you can call it that way. I never look at it that way though, and but she left. We lost contact. I'm sorry to say that over the years.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I actually had several mentors in some way. One of my classmates when I was in Ole Miss
Mhm.
was older lady. She was like 18 years older than I.
Mhm.
She and her husband, who happened to be a law professor, took me in and really treat me just like a daughter. Okay, I'm still in contact with them,
Uh-huh.
and I learned a lot about American, and in general, I mean how people interact with people from them,
Mhm.
and I'm very fortunate to get to know them.
Well, that probably was a wonderful experience. Living, let's see, the university is in Oxford, I believe, is the
Yes.
town, and that's not exactly right next to the huge cities. It's not that far from Memphis, but it's a ways.
Well, yes, my father went to visit me and deemed me the best place to study because there's nothing else to do.
Well, maybe the students do have a few options, but we won't get into that today, I think. That would shock our viewers. Well, it wouldn't shock our viewers, would it?
No.
They used to be all students too.
Well, let me put it very bluntly. Oxford is a beautiful little town. Back then, now it's different, okay? But people are very gentle
Mhm.
in general. And I have to say, in some way, the Southern society is similar to the Chinese old-fashioned society.
Mhm.
People try to be polite, but more so people are very helpful.
Hmm.
Okay.
That's important, especially
Yes.
I imagine for someone who's sort of new to our culture, our country. It must be
It is.
very helpful to
It is.
face that instead of whatever it could be instead.
I know. I'm actually very impressed and touched by people's kindness in general.
Mhm.
Take my dormitory mother, what we call dorm mom, okay? Come Christmas, I have no place to go. Foreign student, everybody went
Sure.
off, go home. My dorm mother took me back to her home
Oh, that would be very
and
kind.
kept me there
Yeah.
for me to stay for 2-3 days. When she went back to the dorm, she took me back. So I have a place to stay.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm very, very grateful.
Mhm.
That's why, in general, the impression I receive in Oxford is not like, boring town, whatever. I'm very touched and
Yeah.
moved by people's kindness to me.
That's good. You'd think you watch the political debates of our era, this is 2015, and
Mhm.
you would think that we're totally anti-immigrant, at least of many of the Americans, and yet, with the exception of those who were Native American in origin, the rest of us, our families did come from someplace else, and
We do.
it's good that we still welcome people, and I'm pleased with that.
Yeah, I mean, to today, I still feel a strong tie with Ole Miss,
Mhm.
despite whatever's going on.
Good. The development office will ought to know that from Ole Miss.
Oh, I
They
do
can-
make
So they'll
donations.
send you an annual appeal letter
Yes.
every year.
And I respond.
Yeah, well, why not?
Yeah.
It was a good experience.
It was a very great experience.
Yeah. So you started off after your library degree now as a catalog librarian.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that a little more, about what sorts of things you worked with? It was monographs, you said.
Yes, we have two catalogers in the cataloging department,
Mhm.
Troy State University back then. That was, I was responsible for monographs,
Mhm.
and the other position is for serials. I was there for 3 years and already had two different colleagues handling serials.
Mhm.
Okay, so unfortunately, Troy State is so far away from many other places, so they had a hard time to hire professional librarians.
Mhm.
Okay, but I was very fortunate in several counts. I was brand new, not knowing that much, but supposedly my assistant, Mrs. Pornell, she was experienced. She was
Mhm.
she held the position as assistant to cataloger for I don't know how many years.
Uh-huh.
So she really developed a good
And
sense.
she knew what it was all about on that day.
Right. And if she questioned the way some books were handled, you better listen.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And Mrs. Pornell at the beginning, she did question one or two, but gradually it ceased. Okay. And she had been extremely kind to me. I was in my mid-20s when I got word one day from my mother that my favorite cat passed away in Hong Kong.
Mhm.
I broke down and cried, and Mrs. Pornell just held me all for a good 10 minutes to calm me down.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I mean, you cannot find this type of treatment everywhere.
No, I'm afraid probably not. It would be nice, but it may not. I mean, she sounded very special.
She was a special
And
lady.
you had others who were special. You mentioned one of them a few minutes ago,
Yes.
who took you to her home. During
That's the
Christmas
dormitory
break.
mother.
Yes.
I regret that I forgot her name.
Well, that's easy. Well,
That's
as
40
we get
some years
older,
ago.
we describe that as senior moment. I'm afraid I have that all the time, but we won't get into that today.
Well, I'm not that far
Further.
behind.
Now, you were a cataloger,
Mhm.
and then you moved to another, I'll call it general library, not a law library, but the regular kind that many of our librarians colleagues work in. And that was at the University of Missouri at Kansas City, which is still sort of south, but you're getting up into the Midwest big time there.
Well-
And you were what, responsible for cataloging still, and this time law and social science materials, though this wasn't a law library. Can you tell us a little bit about that
Sure.
era in your career?
If you don't mind, let me fill in the gap.
All right.
Okay, I got married I'm married to my husband
Okay.
at the end of my stay at Troy. Actually, that's the reason why I left Troy.
Mm-hmm.
My husband had a postdoc position in U of Wisconsin.
Ah.
So after our marriage, our wedding, I have to point this out, the whole library, including my assistants, all attend the wedding and then play a role in my wedding.
Oh.
Yeah,
Nice.
serving punch, man the guest book table,
Mhm.
and one of my assistants told me, "Don't worry, I'm going to make my mother bake the rice cake and the groom's cake." So I mean, I was fortunate that the wife of the chancellor of the university lent me her privilege to use the country club. Failing that, our debate plan and the library
So there
director
you
said,
are over at the country club,
Right.
a guest in effect of the president's wife, chancellor's wife.
right. But the thing is, failing that, I actually had my plan that was my plan B. She offered after I made plan A. Plan A was having the wedding in the library. That was Christmas time,
Yeah.
and
Well,
the library
what'll
will be
work.
closed.
Yeah, well, that has this advantage if you want to put a wedding reception in there, especially since you probably need the key.
Yeah.
Or you knew
So,
somebody who did.
well, we will have the wedding reception inside the staff area.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and one of my assistant's husband turned out to be the university photographer.
Uh-huh.
So he volunteered his service. It's the whole thing is the library event.
Well, I don't know about the protocols when you live in China and places like that, but here in the United States, often the parents of the bride get to pay for all that sort of stuff, and your parents must have been very pleased.
Well, actually, I was so independent. To begin with, I did not really want a wedding, but
Yeah.
my mother said, well, you are not just moving in together, aren't you?
She was a strict mother
Oh, she was
of the
very,
traditional bride.
she was very traditional.
Yeah.
And so I had to modify it, and do all those things quickly. And I'm fortunate to have the library staff, all our ladies, help me out. And they volunteer. They just say, let's do this for you, let's do this for you. Okay?
And
I'm grateful.
they wanted to do it. I mean, sure.
I know.
If you'd said no, they'd have been hurt.
Well, they were very kind.
Uh-huh.
In those days, we were young, and we are just a team. I did not feel being the supervisor, and yes, I look at the work, but Mrs. Cornell, the assistant librarian to catalog, was the one who really cracked the whip.
So now you've acquired a husband, and suddenly you have to leave these people. Is
I
that
know.
what happened? And you end up in Kansas City.
Yeah, I ended up in Wisconsin. That's where I
Oh,
took
Wisconsin first.
Yeah, that's where Madison, Wisconsin,
Okay.
and that's where I take up my specialty certificate in government documents.
All right.
Okay, along the same line, as I mentioned, when I did my master in history, I actually was fascinated by the documents, how well materials are kept, information are kept by this country. And so I took up government documents, okay? And I really am very fortunate again because my academic advisor, Dr. John J. Bow, he made arrangement for me to intern in 5 different libraries, right in Wisconsin. U of Wisconsin have very good libraries.
Yeah.
So, and I also did a student job at the agricultural library. And by the way, they have wonderful ice cream.
Oh, do they?
Yes.
Recruit the students, huh? Fatten them up at the same time.
No, you buy them. That is College of Agriculture's product.
Okay.
Use the dairy product. Yeah, dairy
that's
farm
right.
and everything.
Wisconsin prides itself on its dairy products, its
Right.
cheeses, ice creams, whatever.
Yeah, cheese was good, but ice cream is superb.
Well, also may have been the first time in your life when you encountered snow on the ground. I don't know about that, but
Actually, maybe once or twice a year, Oxford have snow.
oh, does it?
Uh-huh.
I think it was pretty far south. But,
Yeah, but they still have snow, and it's not very long, but enough to excite a girl from Hong Kong.
Oh, I would imagine.
Yes, yeah, but you're right. Wisconsin have very big snow all the time.
I know that. I have a daughter that lives on the other side of Lake Michigan, from Wisconsin over in Michigan, and they get it, and they get snow from the lake makes. There's lake effect over there, which I don't think you get that often on the west side, although Chicago can get some.
Yeah, actually.
Just south of where you were.
Actually, you of Wisconsin-Madison have, Madison is called Folic City.
So you're in Wisconsin, and
In-
at some point in time, you do start moving back towards the south, relatively
Well,
speaking.
My husband landed a faculty job at
Okay.
University of Missouri at Kansas City.
Ah,
I was very fortunate, also landed a job with the General Library.
Uh-huh.
That's how I start doing my cataloging experience again.
Uh-huh.
I want to point out it was very interesting because when I was in Troy, we changed from producing a type card catalog and everything into doing OCLC. Hook on OCLC and bought catalog card from them and all that. So, and I was the one who...
Wasn't that a transformation of probably your work and certainly the library world itself? When they...
It was, because that was in the mid-70s, but actually, sorry, early 70s, I started my professional career in January the 2nd, 1973. Okay, so I was able to learn how to design, you know, the OCLC profile for the library session and all that, and that's a very good experience.
Yeah.
Okay, and set up the OCLC profile for the Troy's library to use their service. Then, after I arrived in UMKC General Library, we had the same thing again.
Okay, you were going through, well, that's when OCLC was new. And
Well,
we
relatively
were all
new to
getting
them.
it at that time, or trying to.
Right, but I was only one of the 3 catalogers. I have a colleague specialized in music. He himself was a music major, and another colleague specialized in education and some other things. But because my master degree was in Master of Social Science, and I have documents training, that's why social science and law. And it was interesting years, and I learned quite a bit. You know, solidify my knowledge in cataloging and also the tax service. But in 1982, there's a big opportunity knock at the door in disguise. One of the documents librarian at the UMKC Law Library took sabbatical leave as a prelude to his departure. So let me make it long story short. I was told to take that job for 1 year, okay, and to fill in the position, and that is mainly a reference job. Back then, UMKC have this law library have this system. 3 people do the reference shift for the whole week. That is the reference librarian. Back then, that's Shirley Darling. Shirley later on become the U.S. Supreme Court librarian.
Right. She's now lives in in Virginia.
So Sherry, she was the reference librarian. She herself was attending law school back then. And another circulation manager. She's not a librarian. She had not had a library degree, but she wanted to do, because of public service experience, she also handled some questions. And then me. And I was doing, I think, about 20-hour reference work, 20 to 28 hours reference work then, each week. Then I'm the first person. And then we had the system Shirley set up was, you have a backup. You know, if you're busy with a patron, then somebody come in, you don't make people wait. The backup person would be there to help.
Yeah, well, that's sound library practice.
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned.
It is a very good library practice, especially because the place is in the city. And I think UMKC is the largest law library in Kansas City.
All right.
Okay, and if I want to call anybody my mentor, Shirley is my really first law librarian mentor. Okay.
Well, you certainly did well there. I mean, I know her, and I've never seen her as a mentor, but I would think she'd be excellent.
She was excellent. She was the one who told me to read, what book to read to build up my knowledge. I have knowledge of the law collection, but I don't know how people use those books. And especially for the old-timer, probably still remember how surplus citation looked like. Okay, those to me is not even English. So Shirley was the one who explained to me. and coupled with my understanding of how the law books are organized,
Yes.
so I was able to pick up, and when I was not on the first person on reference duty, I always try to keep my eyes and ears open to see how Shirley and Linda, the other lady, how they answer the reference question, especially Shirley.
Now, I assume it sort of then was by happenstance that you left the general library and moved into the law library world at that time.
Well, at that time, the plan originally was for me to be there for 1 year,
Yes.
to build up more knowledge about law material.
Yes.
But before that 1 year end, University of Kansas Law Library had an opening for a cataloger. But the cataloging librarian also would take on 10 to 12 hours of reference duty every week. So that position is almost like customized for me.
It sounds like it.
Yes. And although between my home then and
Now, you were,
KU, I was living in Kansas
so
City
you were living in Kansas City and I guess commuting to
Lawrence. It's
Yeah.
40 miles one way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is fine unless there's been a snowstorm or bad storm.
Well, actually, I guess so I say snow in several times.
Yeah.
But the commute actually was against the traffic.
Oh, okay.
So I was very fortunate.
Yeah.
And I jumped for the opportunity. I enjoy working in a smaller library. I've seen big library, although my big general library experience is very present, but I still like the closeness of the law library, as well as the opportunity to get in touch with the law students and faculty better. So, and on top of that, Peter Skang, the then library director at KU, he was very nice. He made a special trip to Kansas City, took me out to lunch, tried to convince me that I should go.
It's called recruitment.
That and on top of a nice raise in salary.
That's even better recruitment.
Oh, that's a very good incentive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I finally had my own office. So, I mean, everything considered. And I like the colleagues I met when I visit KU. So everything considered, I decided to, quit UMKC. And also I want everybody to know that I don't go to UMKC as a training spouse.
That you were going there in your own right. Huh?
Right. Yes.
Well,
I always thought that I'd made the contribution,
Yeah.
but how people look at you. Well, yeah. I mean, my husband is in physics, okay?
Okay.
So it had nothing to do with library or law or anything in social science.
Yeah.
But still, let me put it bluntly, it's a personal pride. Okay, that I can strike out on my own.
Yeah.
Okay.
You certainly seem to do well and continue in your career even after that doing very well from all indications.
Yes, with KU I have the strongest tie professionally and emotionally. I was there for 19 long years.
19 years. So tell me a little more about that experience. You came as sort of a cataloger?
Yes.
And did you do that the entire time or did you evolve?
Well,
somehow you ended up an associate director here, so you must have evolved along the way someplace.
Well, I actually went in there as a cataloring librarian, and then sometimes people left, whatever. So Peter Skang had a chance to do some reorganization and put me in charge of the technical service department. So I was there for quite a while, and I had a chance to learn from not, just by from books or whatever. I was able to learn down to nitty-gritty, serial check-in and everything, and how to use the card decks and all that back then we still have those things.
That's right. Today's librarians with our fancy computers would have no
Yeah.
inkling of pulling a drawer out of a big file,
Yes.
we call it a cardex, finding the right paper record and
Right,
marking
and
with a
the
pen
marking,
or a
moving the
pencil
marking.
that you got the next issue of whatever the journal world
Right,
subscription
right.
item was.
So those are old-fashioned stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
and then hunting back through it at some point, or whoever would pay the bills to see if in fact the bill had come. Now did the thing get checked in earlier as having come too?
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
And I also have the good fortune of working with Fritz Snyder. He was
Oh, yeah.
there. I think last time I heard he retired as the director
Mhm.
of University of Wyoming or Montana. Montana.
I think it was Montana.
Yeah,
I
Montana.
could be wrong, but I think.
I think
that's
you're
what it
right,
was.
Montana. Yeah. So law library director there,
Yeah.
and Fritz was then the associate director,
Mhm.
as the one and only JD reference librarian.
Yeah.
We actually, yeah. So Fritz was very kind, and he come up with a plan to train, but Fritz cannot cover everything.
Mhm.
So we all rotate in and, like I say, to take some reference schedule,
Mhm.
reference desk hour. And so Fritz had the way of training people. Every week he would pull out one or two reference book to explain the usefulness and how to use it and how to do that. Okay, and like I say, the advantage of being a cataloger is you know how the collection is organized.
That's right.
You know-
And how to find what's in that collection very efficiently. I
Very
suspect.
fast, very
Yeah.
very efficiently. I still can, even nowadays after so long, I can close my eyes. I know immediately where the book was. Okay, where KSA stand, you know, and the present jury's instruction on the reserve collection.
There's one other type of employee often in the place that knows that same kind of thing about where those books are, and that's the student assistants that end up getting assigned to move books, shift, to make space, and they can sometimes learn some of that.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
And it's sort of razzle-dazzle for the guy or the person that's looking for the book to have you go right to the shelf and find it so
I know.
quickly.
I know. I mean, even now nowadays I still take reference desk hour,
Mhm.
so I would not be too totally away from the work and knowledge. It surprised a lot of people. I know where the books are. It's easy where the restatements are. Where the ULA are. It's easy for me.
Mhm.
So I know surprise people, but that's the benefit of being cataloger.
Well, you were there quite a while.
I was there quite a while.
Became head of what we would call technical services, I guess.
Yes, and then after a while, when the public service librarian left,
Uh-huh.
and Peter asked me, would I like to do something? I said, well, because at that time we also did not have a circulation manager.
Mhm.
So he didn't say out loud, okay, but I kind of sense he felt that he should have somebody experienced with the
Mhm.
library and the collection to cover that
So
position.
you evolved into public services at
So
that
I moved
point.
from tech service, head of tech service, to become the public service librarian.
And they hired somebody new to come in and do the acquisitions and cataloging.
Well,
work,
acquisition,
or
we
did
don't
you
have-
end up doing that on the side?
No, unfortunately. No acquisition librarians. We never really have an acquisition librarian.
No.
We have an assistant. Eventually, that position was reorganized. Things evolved.
Yeah.
And we have a non-law faculty wife who just newly get her library degree to be the cataloger.
Okay.
So I was able to explain things to her. So everything worked out fine again.
That sounds like she was fortunate to have you so readily available if she did have a question.
Well, people can learn very fast. And we were a happy bunch. So, but eventually things gradually changed. Peter left for Marquette,
Yes.
and I was there, and actually after he left, I was made the acting director. Back then I was the only tenured librarian. So that, I think that's maybe the reason. And at the end, my one of my older child already start college. I have to ask myself, I will still have 15 to 20 years of professional life.
Yes.
Okay, what am I going to do? Am I doing the same old for the next 2 decades? Okay, or I should seek some challenge. I'm grateful to my husband who said that I always want to go to law school, to be honest. Even before I start my undergrad in Hong Kong. But Hong Kong law school is only for University of Hong Kong. Okay, and back then, well, for us, the reason I didn't go. But after working in a law library so long, I always say that my immunity to law finally worn out. And my husband said, you know, if you want to do some career development, go for it. You already put in so many years to develop other people's careers. So time for you to do something for yourself.
Well, it would have been probably an appropriate next step if you aspired to be in a more senior leadership role in the libraries, which you already were in as the acting director. But
Pat, to be honest with you, I never thought of that sort of, you know, climb the ladder.
You didn't plan that way.
No, I didn't look at it that way. My lifelong passion is to read. I'm a reader, okay? Read whatever book things is in front of me and learn some new information. So I have to say this. I finished my law degree in 4 years. While I work full time. I only took off 1 semester on unpaid leave to finish the requirement courses. Okay. The rest I worked full time when I did law school. Okay. And like I just mentioned, several times I get snow out. I mean, home and office are 40 miles, rural driving. Okay. So I kept an air mattress and a set of clean clothes and a blanket in my office. Some nights I will be whole night.
Basically hang out if you had to for the whole night in Lawrence and not have to get it back home.
Right. I mean, so I don't have to pay rent. I mean, I have my office. I have my air mattress. If I was up the next morning.
There are members of Congress in Washington, D.C. who sleep in their offices. There was an article in the Washington Post about that at one point.
I read about this for somebody.
Yeah, well,
you know,
why not? I mean,
well,
if it works.
If it worked for me. Okay. And although law school is not easy, and doing it on a full-time job make it more difficult, but I have to say those 4 years arguably were the most happy years in my life intellectually, because I finally get to see where the pieces of puzzles I saw over the years, where they fall.
Where it all comes together.
Right. So I constantly get that, ooh, ah.
Well, having known other colleagues who've been in our field and then decided to attend law classes and get degrees, they work hard.
Well,
I've never envied the schedule that they must undertake to do it.
Well, like I say, it's not easy, you know, but intellectually it's very rewarding.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah, and then I enjoyed it. Okay, and all I want to be is a better law librarian, and that only can be done after you get a law degree. Okay, so because of that, I try to take as much seminar courses as possible, because those would make me to do research myself.
Research and writing probably too, I would guess. It'd be ideal preparation for almost anything.
We still have writing requirement. Okay.
Yeah.
And the biggest fear for those few years was that I know all the law professors. If I took the class and see I make not so good grade, it would be
You'd be
shameful.
embarrassed.
I was embarrassed several times. Anyway, and I'm very grateful to the law professor at KU.
Mhm.
The faculty were very kind to me.
Well, now somewhere along the way, you're in Kansas. You've now got the degree. You've been in the acting or whatever head of the law library, but you evolve, and I know at some point you're suddenly in Florida, back down the south as such, and really south in Florida. You're down at the
Almost
sort
a
of the
team.
Miami area.
Yes.
At Florida International University.
Right,
And,
it's a startup. Back then it was a
yeah,
startup.
well, I remember its early days. I was involved in working with the dean and at one point and some colleagues to help them get ready for the American Bar Association accreditation visit.
Yes, actually I was the one who handled the library when the accreditation inspection came.
Yeah.
Okay, towards the end of my law school student career, there was such an opening, and it was because of my experience in tax service and public service. I consider myself general know-it-all operation. So when they had the opening, I knew such opening would not happen in KU, and it would be a good way for me to utilize my knowledge and experience accumulate over the years. So I applied and was fortunate to get the job. Okay, and my husband and my daughter had me moved down to Miami, and I was working for Sarah Hook Lee.
Oh, yes.
Yes, she now I believe is still with Northeastern.
I think so.
Yeah, and from Sarah I really learned something about managing a small staff library. Okay, but I'm grateful that Sarah trusts me enough to organize the reference department and organize the circulation department, set up interlibrary loan, as well as help building the collection. She actually already made a major purchase. It's only we need to decide on certain special area like state statutes. But then not every state have the statutes and online. It's meant very different.
But even at that time, there was the American Bar Association accreditation people who were still focused on books to a great extent, and having the online might provide access, but it wasn't quite as recognized as legitimate as it became later.
Yeah, well, databases sounds great, but they don't count. We still keep volume count.
Yeah.
I believe actually, being the person fill the library portion of ABA stats for UH.
Yeah.
I believe they dropped the volume count in 2007.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
It's
wanted
only
to sort of get
2007.
away from the focus on paper and look more at reasonable access. Because that was really the goal, even of the older standards of physically having it there. In an era when, you couldn't just get it from, some library on the street readily. And so having it was considered more important.
So Sarah was the founding director. But I think about a little bit more than a year after I arrived, Northeastern, the dean of Northeastern Law School, recruit her.
Okay.
To Sarah and her husband. They both are from Boston.
Oh,
yeah.
So it was sort of like going up
Go back
towards home again.
Yeah, go back home. And so again, I was in the acting person. It's during that period that the the ABA accreditation inspection team arrived.
Yes.
Just so as Faye has it, John Shells of then UH library director was the one.
He was your librarian inspector. Huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And John and I met each other long ago through SWAL.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that was, of course, reality.
Yeah, so
Any of us that did any inspections over the years would always run into old friends.
I know it was.
Made the deans a little nervous, I think.
Oh, I don't know. John and I give each other a hug, and like I say, we met each other through
Yeah.
SWAL, and we saw each other annually. I mean,
Well,
I must
sure.
say, I must say,
But still, he did the right thing, and you
Well, that's no-
benefited by when you got accreditation. It was the real, nothing fudged.
well, let me put it very bluntly, okay? I went through two inspections when I was in KU,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm very familiar with that process,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And as soon as we knew who's on the accreditation team, we look at the special area of these people
Mm-hmm.
and make sure those areas are well stocked. That's the trade secret.
One has to be strategic in this sort of thing,
Yes.
planning.
Yes.
Yes, well, that's reality too, I
Yep.
suspect, more than I like to admit.
So for that, I'm very glad to say that we passed it at the first inspection. So there's no problem. But then UH had the opening. How should I put it? UH had the opening, and UH is closer to Kansas City.